Close your eyes and imagine. What if the things in life that cause us the greatest pain, the things that bring us grief, are challenges? Challenges designed to help us grow, to ultimately become what we were always meant to be. We feel like we've been buried, but what if, like a seed, we've been planted? And having been planted, we grow to become a mighty tree. Now, open your eyes. Open your eyes to this way of viewing life. Come with me as we explore your true, infinite, eternal nature. This is Grief to Growth, and I am your host, Brian Smith. Hey everyone, I'm Brian Smith, and I want to welcome you to another episode of Grief to Growth. And whether you're tuning in for the very first time or you've been walking this journey with me for a while, I want to let you know that I am so glad that you're here. This is a space where we talk honestly about life, about loss, and about the questions that stir deep within us. Things like who we are, why we're here, and where we go after this life. My guest today is Christi Clemons Hoffman. She's a lifelong intuitive, a teacher, a channel, and a level 3 QHHT practitioner whose mission is to help people understand who they truly are. Same things that we like to talk about. She's the author of the upcoming book, Real Life Angel Encounters, where ordinary people share extraordinary stories of connection with the divine. Christy is also the co-author of the best-selling book, The Gap, Simple Steps to Reclaim Your Health and Reverse Most Chronic Diseases. In this episode, we're going to explore how angels guide and communicate with us and what they most want us to know. We'll talk about what happens after we die, and yes, including our pets, and whether our loved ones stick around. We'll talk. Christy will share insights drawn not from just from her writing, but also from her 2 podcasts, Real Life Angel Encounters and Radiate Wellness, where she's hosted inspiring voices like Dr. Eben Alexander, I should say, and Dr. Raymond Moody. If you've ever wondered whether you're truly alone on this journey or if there's more going on behind the scenes of this life, this episode is for you. And be sure to stay to the end. And when you're done listening, continue the conversation with me over at grieftogrowth.com/community, where you can interact with me and other listeners of the show. And with that, I'd like to welcome Christy to Grief to Growth.
Thank you, Brian. I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm really excited to have you here today. It's really wild when I do these episodes, they seem to go on like themes. I had a bunch of people who had been dealing with autistic children, like back to back. And I was telling you before we started yesterday, I interviewed Sue Frederick, who is also an angel communicator and talks about how angels can guide us and what angels want to tell us. So I think that's kind of a theme for me, at least right now.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, when people get into this type of work, what led you to this?
Oh my gosh, that is such a story. Well, I grew up being intuitive and and seeing things around me and knowing things and but I didn't know that it was a gift or special, and I didn't know you could do anything useful with it.
Hmm.
But when I got to be an adult and went through what I call a crucible moment, a really difficult time in my life, I was looking for meaning. I was searching for answers. And I found Dolores Cannon, and she was a very world famous metaphysician and hypnotherapist. And I found out about her work, which is QHHT, quantum healing hypnosis technique. And it's kind of a long story, but through that, I connected with someone who is an angel communicator here in the Kansas City area. And I had gone to her for a reading, which was wonderful. I referred my friends to her and they all had readings, and that was wonderful. She started teaching classes and I started taking all of the classes that she was giving. And I learned how to harness this intuition. I learned how to work with it, how to rely on it, how to trust it, and how to deepen my communication with angels and other beings that are around us all the time, because they really are. And they want us to communicate with them. They want to hear from us and they want to talk to us, but we have to ask, and we need to know how to listen. I didn't know how to listen.
Yeah, yeah. You mentioned a crucible moment, and my show is entitled Grief to Growth. A lot of people that come to the show and myself, we go through these moments that seem to drive us to this work. It's like not many of us, say I'm going to do this when we're like 3 years old or something. So what was it that drove you to do this?
Well, it was actually the breakup of my marriage.
Mm.
and I didn't see it coming. And that just led me to question pretty much everything.
Yeah.
And this was a few years before 2012, and there was a lot of discussion in the years up to 2012. What's going to happen? There are these huge predictions, and there's a lot of discussion about what that was going to mean for humanity and up leveling humanity. And I don't know, I was questioning a lot anyway,
Hmm.
and I just knew that there had to be more meaning behind this event in my life. And turns out there were things that I needed to know for my soul growth. There were things that I needed to know about karma and balancing that were very, very helpful. And so, having that knowledge and being able to talk with my guides and my angels, my loved ones on the other side, and learning how to do that, it was really helpful. And that's really why I do what I do, is to help people understand that you're not alone, you're not crazy, and that there's a vast amount of help that we have on the other side, including, yes, our loved ones, including our pets, including angels and guides and ascended masters. They're all wanting to help us, but we have to let them in. We have to listen, and we have to ask.
Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing that. I appreciate that. I know sometimes I feel uncomfortable asking people those intimate questions, but it's my show is called, as I said, Grief to Growth, and a lot of people come here because they're in grief, and what I want to exhibit for them, or to model for them, is that when we go through these moments, I think it's designed that it's like it's there and it makes us question everything. It's like Neo in the movie The Matrix. We wake up and say, "There's something wrong."
Yeah. Well, and it's not just loss by death.
Right.
Grief,
Exactly.
many things, loss of a marriage,
Right.
loss of a friend, loss of a job, of health, of moving and losing your community and your home. And even though you've got a new community and home, but yeah, this grief can take so many different avenues. And I think we fall short of that sometimes. And people will say, well, I don't know why I'm so depressed about this. It's not like anybody died,
Yeah.
right? And
Right.
it doesn't have to be that.
Right.
Grief is grief.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we go through grief individually and collectively. I think society goes through grief at times.
Oh my gosh, after 9/11, and honestly, after the last election, I think a lot of people have been in grief.
Yeah. I know they have. It's been really interesting how people have, and again, people, as you were saying, have trouble putting their finger on it because they think grief is only when someone dies, but you're going through the exact same thing. Everything feels off. Nothing feels like it makes you happy. What's wrong with the world? Why am I here? All those questions.
Yeah, all of those questions. And there, as Wayne Dyer said, there's a spiritual solution to every problem.
Mm,
And everything, once I feel like once you start scratching the surface, you find that everything is spiritually connected, everything is divine, everything is energy, and everything is connected.
yeah. Yeah, I completely agree. Let's talk about QHHT. I think a lot of us have heard that acronym. It's a hard one to say, a hard one to remember. What does it actually mean? What is QHHT?
Quantum healing hypnosis technique.
Mm-hmm.
Quantum healing hypnosis technique is the method that was devised by Dolores Cannon. She refined this method over decades. She started in the 60s doing clinical type of hypnosis with her husband, Johnny, who was a military guy. They were moving base to base, and they worked with people on the bases for smoking, weight loss, anxiety, fears and phobias, that type of thing. But they wanted to get more reliable, consistent results. They wanted to take people deeper into trance, into a definitely altered state of consciousness. Now, I do clinical hypnosis as well. It's very effective, it is very useful, and it's very versatile. You can use it for so many things. However, I know that doing the clinical hypnosis, it's a lighter state of trance. It's a lighter, altered state of consciousness. It's like the state of consciousness we might be in when we're watching a movie and we're totally engrossed. Or we're working on a spreadsheet and we lose track of time, or we're working on our hobby or a mundane task, but also meditation. We get to this alpha state of consciousness, is what it's called in meditation. And it's relaxation. It is, we might lose track of time, and it's a profound sense of just peace.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted to take people to what's called the theta state of consciousness, which is the state right before you fall asleep and right before you wake up. Dolores called it somnambulistic, which means sleepwalking, and that's not entirely accurate, but it's a very, very relaxed state. You can move if you need to, but most people don't want to.
Mm-hmm.
And you need to be able to respond to my questions. I ask a lot of questions. But the purpose of quantum healing hypnosis technique, which she again refined over the years because she was having so much success and wanted to do more and more and more with it. What it grew into was a method of recovering memories and important information from other lifetimes. Could be past lives, could be future lives, could be between lives, could be the current life, or this gets really weird. It could be a concurrent life, another life that you're living somewhere else at the same contemporary time. It's interesting. And why we do this is we want to know what we are learning from these other lives. What have we carried over? Patterns, habits, lessons, growth that we have not finished with, so that we can affect change in the current life, because this is the most important life that we can live. It's the one that we have agency over. Mm-hmm. But what QHHT also does, it allows you to open up a conduit to speak with your higher self. That is something we might consider our soul or our inner being, or just like this inner knowledge that we have. And we all have it. And so we can access this much, much more intelligent, higher wisdom than what we are aware of. We can ask questions. Why do I always have the same relationship patterns? What are my next steps? What do I need to do in my career? What do I need to do for my soul's growth? Where did my soul originate? Many, many questions. But then we can also achieve physical healing and physical change through QHHT, because the body is innately wise and can heal itself if we get out of the way. So when we're holding on to old trauma, old emotions, that is stored in the body, as referenced by the book, The Body Keeps the Score. And over time, well, in the gap, you mentioned the book I co-authored.
Right.
Chapter of that book outlines how energy in the body will eventually manifest as disease, illness, of even accidents and injuries are a result of the energy that we hold in our bodies. And so the higher self can go through and tell us, well, Brian is having trouble with his right shoulder. It's because he's carrying too much weight from his father. And, we can understand the lesson. What is the lesson? Has Brian learned the lesson? Can Brian have this condition removed? And so yourself can go through and clear the energy of it. And so people will come in and they'll have a limp. They walk out of my office. They don't have a limp. They come in with a rash. They leave. They don't have rash. I've had 4 people who came in with cancer and they don't have it anymore. Wow. So we can affect all kinds of positive physical change within the body and the spirit. We just have to really know what the lesson is and be willing to release it.
Okay. Oh, by the way, I am having trouble with my right shoulder, so.
Well, I didn't want to say it, but I could see it. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Problems with your dad, taking on too much responsibility from your dad?
Yeah, probably. I don't know. Yeah, that was really interesting because I've been having trouble with my shoulder, so that's pretty amazing. In terms of now, I know we're talking about angels, and we're also talking about QHHT, and we talked about, and your other book is about healing. So, I'm imagining these things kind of all tie together in some sense.
They really do. They just interlock. Like I said, everything is spiritual. Everything is divine. We're all made of energy. We're all made of God, and so all of these avenues I think are essential. And in the book The Gap, I talk about how illness or disease, we can see it like a mountain that we want to dig a tunnel through. I used to live in Switzerland. We have tons of tunnels through our mountains. Mm-hmm. What we want to do is we want to move through each side of this issue and meet in the middle. And on one side, we want to do all the physical things, the x-rays, the scans, the medication, the therapies, all of this. On the other side, we want to work on the energy, the emotion, the trauma, and find resolution and lessons in all of that. And that way we can meet in the middle. Because if we only work on the physical stuff, we might get some relief, but we're creating it as we're going with reliving our trauma and emotions.
Hmm.
And if we only look at the trauma and emotions, then we might get somewhere, but it's taking, however many years for that to come on. And it can take that many years to undo that lesson or
Hmm.
learn that lesson, right, and affect the change. So I'm very practical. I always look at, okay, we got a physical body. We need to treat it like a physical thing, but we're also an energy body and we need to treat it like just as an energy body. So
Yeah.
we need both. Now, you mentioned the QHHT, and that actually comes up in the book, Real Life Angel Encounters. Real people share real stories of the miraculous encounters.
Hmm.
That there is a story in the book about a woman who had another lifetime as a guardian angel, which was fascinating. You
Hmm.
get a like a bird's eye view or a bug on the wall type of view of what it's like to actually look over somebody and
Hmm.
watch them, protect them throughout their lives. And then you get to find out too what the training is like. I
Yeah.
asked how she knew how to do all of this. And she said, well, I had to learn this. And I said, well, let's go to the school and find out how you learn this stuff. And so she described this beautiful angel school and the teachers that she had there and all the things she had to learn, all the different beings that she could work with besides humans.
Hmm.
It's very interesting. And I asked how she felt about this job. She goes, it's a job. It's just my job. It's just what I do.
Oh, wow.
And then after the book was already written, I had another session just this year, which will probably be in the next book because this is Real Life Angel Encounters. The book is going to be a series. And
Okay.
next book, there's going to be another story of a woman who had a lifetime as an angel. The way she described herself, if she was not Archangel Michael, she was some member of his battalion or his troops because she certainly had that presence of a very muscular, very capable male angel.
Hmm.
And yeah, she talks about what that experience was like as well. So, we can find all kinds of things, all kinds of answers through QHHT. Interestingly enough, too, many people will come in who've lost someone and they're really what they want is to be able to see them, talk to them again.
Hmm.
And if they've lost someone important like that and are still dealing with their grief, which we're going to deal with until our last days, right? Grief doesn't go away. It
Right.
comes ways, right? So if they're, in a period where they're really deep in grief, I'll ask their loved ones to come in and it's like, what do you want this client to know? And what else do you want this client to know? And can
Hmm.
you have this client feel the love that you have for them? And it's transformative. It's so helpful.
Yeah, that's so that would be an after death communication type of thing where you actually can experience your loved one yourself. Because I know a lot of times people get healing from medium readings, but if you can have that facilitated after death communication, that's just like next level.
It's next level. It's next level. I also, Brian, I teach a class called Love Never Dies. And it's a presentation on like how after death communication actually works, what happens after we die.
Hmm.
And I finished the class with a guided meditation to take people to meet with their loved ones
Hmm.
and receive messages and healing from their loved ones.
Yeah. Well, let's go back to angels for a moment because we've all grown up hearing about angels, and you mentioned Archangel Michael, and we've heard about the other archangels, and we hear about we think of like little cherubs, and we think of angels with wings, and in the Bible they're always huge and they're scary. So what is your experience of angels been like, and uh, how they interact with human beings?
Oh, that's an excellent question. Now, there's actually a hierarchy of angels. And we would think that archangels were at the highest level of that hierarchy, but they're not.
Mm,
They're about like mid-level managers. And they because they work with humans.
mm,
angels are assigned to humans and humanity, and there are angels in the hierarchy above that who deal with, like the principalities deal with governments and organizations and countries and cities and type of governments. And then there's the powers and the thrones, the cherubim, the seraphim. So they all deal with bigger picture type of things, but archangels deal with humans, and
Hmm.
they have very human jobs that they carry out. There's an exception. There's only two archangels who had ever been human. All the rest of the archangels have not been human before, but Sandalphon and Metatron had been human, and they are depicted in the Bible as Elijah and Enoch.
Hmm.
Yeah, so it gets interesting. All of the archangels have their own jobs they do, and then there are other assorted angels and guides that work with us. So the angelic realm is pretty vast, but it's not just angels. And angels, they can appear with wings, they can appear without wings, they can appear in human form in many different forms. I know you and I have both had human angels on our show as
Hmm.
well. That gets interesting. But honestly, I think we all are these divine beings.
Yeah.
We're spiritual beings having a human experience.
Yeah.
And in addition to archangels, there's also ascended masters, and they're somewhat of a mixed bag. Some have been human, like Yogananda and Jesus, and then some are deities like Apollo and Pele and Lu. But they also have their jobs that they do, and they are also in service to humanity. And then we have our loved ones too. They're on the other side, and they help us. I talk about this in one of the chapters in the book, Real Life
Hmm.
Angels. So you'll have to order the book and read those chapters and find out more.
Yeah. It's really interesting because the more I hear about the spirit realm, as we call it, there are all these different types of beings, angels and as you said, ascended masters and guides and, whatever. But why we keep saying in service to humanity. Why are they in service to humanity? What's special about us?
Well, humanity, as we do it on Earth, we are kind of an anomaly. We're an outlier because we have free will.
Mm.
And that is not true in most other places. And we have a gamut of emotions that most places don't have. So we can get, into bliss, but we can also get into despair. And this is something of an experiment. What are humans going to do with this? What happens when you have complete free will and you have dark emotions as well as light emotions? And so we
Hmm.
need a lot of help. And the hierarchy of angels, they earn their wings, to borrow a phrase from It's a Wonderful Life, by helping us. And our
Yeah.
loved ones do too. Our loved ones kind of earn their stars in heaven by helping us here. They want to help. They really, really do. And they know that God is love and love is God. And they have so much love for us that they want to help.
So let's talk about free will. And what does that mean when you say humans have free wills, but in other places beings don't have free will?
That's an excellent question. And I'm not sure how it would work without free will, because that would be like asking a fish would it be like without water.
Yeah, yeah.
But I know from free will and living in this realm where we have it that we can make our own choices. It's like a loving parent that you might not tell your child outright no, but you might hover over them to make sure that they don't get hurt if they're doing something.
Yeah.
You might just redirect a toddler away from something.
Right.
But we have the free will to make these boneheaded choices and do these boneheaded things. And then we also live the consequences of it. So I think that's really the hallmark of free will. We need to be free to live our consequences and to understand the laws of consequence, action and reaction, and law and action and consequence.
Yeah.
So learn from that.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and that was a really interesting answer. It's the first time I've kind of heard it put that way, because I have wondered. I keep hearing about humans and Earth and stuff, and this is a place of extremes.
Yeah.
It's a place where as you said, you can experience bliss, or you can experience something that feels very much like hell. And I think a lot of times we look around and we say, why is it this way? And I think the answer that the divine would tell us, because this is what you chose. This is, we gave you free will and this is what you chose.
Exactly. Yeah. And we choose it all.
Yeah.
So our parents, we choose our circle, we choose our challenges, our difficulties. We even choose how we leave this earth.
Mm-hmm.
And we agree to all of it with our soul family,
Yeah.
travel with us over and over again.
So we come into this place of extreme challenges and extreme emotions, and et cetera. And so we need a lot of help, right? But then we forget. So I'm thinking about myself and I think about other people. We haven't been taught there's this abundance of help available to us in all these different forms, from past loved ones and angels and guides, et cetera. So what we're here to help people today is realize, okay, you can reach out to and get help, right? Because as you said, they want to help us. And you mentioned the free will thing too, but then the other thing is I guess we have to ask for help.
We do. They could come in and swoop up and just clean up our messes for us, but they want us, like a loving parent, want us to learn from our mistakes.
Hmm.
Right? We don't learn from things going well. We learn from, oh, I don't want to do that again. Oh boy, I really messed that up. How could I have avoided that? That's how we learn and that's how we grow. So, we need to be able to do that.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting as you were saying that, they could come in, but they don't do it. And I think on the other, I think of when my children were toddlers, they were like, no, no, let me do it. Let me do it. I want to do it. And I think people get insulted sometimes when I say this. I think of us humans as basically toddlers. We think we know so much, but we have no clue what's going on. And I think they do look at us like, okay, I'm gonna let her fall. I'm gonna let her stumble. And we don't realize there are guardrails that even though it feels like, we can really get hurt from a spiritual perspective, we're always protected.
We're always protected. And it is funny, Brian, doing the work that I do with QHHT and doing readings as well, and looking at past lives, looking at, some of the things that we've been through before in other lifetimes. I know that death is not the worst thing that can happen to us. Death is
Yeah.
easy. I've done it hundreds of times, right? The hard thing is to live through challenges and difficulty. But even then, we think, oh my God, this bankruptcy, this is the worst thing that could ever possibly happen to me. Oh, this divorce is the worst thing that was ever going to happen to me.
Yeah.
I can't get past it. But all of these things are just a drop in the ocean. In
Hmm.
the scheme of things, really, there's nothing to fear and nothing to worry about.
Yeah, I think you're right. And once you get to that perspective, a lot of the fear about life does drop away. You realize that everything that we're going through is temporary, and which actually having a little age helps too. I remember I got divorced when I was in my 20s, and I thought that was the the end of my any kind of relationship. I never thought I'd find anybody again. You go through. I've been fired from jobs a couple of times. And you feel like that's the worst thing that can happen to you. So I've been through that, and including the loss of my daughter almost 10 years ago when my daughter passed away. I thought this is it. I will never be able to get over this. And you said the grief is always with you. It's still there, but it didn't end me like I thought it would.
No, no. Brian, I met a woman at church the other day. I was leading meditation, and afterward, I just ran into her in the hall. She liked my jeans. I liked her hair. We
Hmm.
got talking, and she shared that her son had died 9 years ago.
Mm.
And she just kept saying, I'm broken. I'm broken. I'm broken. I'm like, darling, you are not broken. And, we talked about how, our love never dies and that grief is a journey and there's just an ebb and flow and an ebb and flow. And I'm going to have her, hopefully I get to run into her again. I'm going to have her listen to your podcast because she needs to know that there is hope after such a loss.
Yeah, well, we are eternal beings. We are not as we appear. As it was interesting because we were talking about the angels and stuff, and I think it was C.S. Lewis that said something about, or maybe it's Marianne Williamson, but something about like if we could see each other as we truly are, we would fall to our knees and worship each other because we don't understand just how magnificent we are. And I love what you talked about that part of QHHT of being able to reach out to your higher self, because when we talk about all the help that we have. One of the things I hear very rarely is ourselves, just the part of us that's on the other side.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. Because there's you know what? I think of us kind of like those old fashioned divers who have the big helmet and then the big boots and everything. And they've got this air hose that goes up to a boat.
Right,
Our physical body is the diver. Our
right.
physical body, we're living our life. We're oblivious to what's going on at the surface. We don't know where we are. We don't know what time it is. All we know is what's right in front of us, what we can see outside of our little window on our helmet.
Yeah,
Idea what the conditions are. And then the person in the boat above, I see that as our higher self who has the big picture, who knows how long we're going to be out on this excursion, who's keeping track of time, who knows what our next stop is going to be, who knows what the conditions are. Ooh, it's looking kind of cloudy. We probably need to get going in. Um, and who really just kind of guides the whole journey and the whole experience. But we're down here thinking that this is everything there is.
yeah.
All this little thing I can see out of this little helmet is everything there is, and not really understanding the bigger picture.
Yeah, I love that analogy. It's the first time I've heard that particular one, but I think that's the only way we can really understand where we are is through analogy, and that's a really good one. I like my daughter and I used to love to play video games, and now that virtual reality is as good as it is now, if you've ever put on a virtual reality helmet, you get in that and you feel like you are in that environment. You will get dizzy if you're standing on the edge of a cliff. People have done all kinds of stupid stuff with these helmets on because you forget. You get you're literally totally immersed. But all you can experience is what's coming through that headset, through that interface. Meanwhile, the world is still going on around you, but you don't experience that. And I think that's where we are. But we do get to, through some techniques like you're talking about and through these higher understandings, we can realize, okay, this is a temporary experience. This is not it. This divorce, this loss of a job, whatever. What's this here to teach me? What can I do with this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean that's the proof of the pudding, right?
Right.
What do I do with it? We have no control whatsoever about what other people do, about external events or actions. All we really have agency over is how we feel about it and how we react.
Yeah. One thing that intrigued me is the title of your the book that you co-authored, "Simple Steps to Reclaim Your Health and Reverse Most Chronic Diseases." A lot of people have chronic diseases, especially when they get to the age that I am now, and that I'm around people that are going through a lot of different challenges. So what can we do to help? Because you talked, and I loved what you talked about Western medicine. So we go to our doctor. Our doctor prescribes a pill or they prescribe a treatment or whatever. What are some other things that we can do?
Well, honestly, okay, let me just preface this by I really think the medical community needs to know about trauma. I mean, they know about physical blunt force trauma, but they need to know about emotional trauma. And they
Hmm.
need to know about the role of emotions on and karma, honestly,
Mm.
on our health. So I wish they would ask more questions. What's your relationship with your mom like? What's going on at home? Rather than just, oh, well, when did you start having this dizziness? Okay, what was going on in your life when you
Hmm.
started or in the year prior to this? So I wish they asked more questions. All right. So, going back to simple steps to reclaim your health, every chapter of that book is written by a different expert in nutrition, in eugenics, in I can't remember what all of the different specialties are, but
Hmm.
each one writes from their perspective, be it nutrition, be it supplementation, many different things. My area of expertise happens to be energy, being a Reiki master, being an intuitive, being a medical intuitive. That's my bailiwick.
Okay.
So, recommendation for simple things that we can do is to release regret, release our negative emotions, release anger, release fear, and not hold it in our body. You and I, we are Midwestern people, and I'm a Midwestern woman. And what do good Midwestern women, I cannot speak to Midwestern men, but what do good Missouri Midwestern women do? We stuff our emotions.
Mm. Hmm.
into our body, or we put them in our backpack and carry that around.
Right, right.
The biggest thing we can do is understand, well, not only our emotions and trauma, but the energy system, which I talk about in that chapter, which is our chakra system. Every chakra corresponds with not only the physical apparatus that surrounds it, but different emotional states,
Yeah.
such as root with trust and security, the sacral with our sexuality and relationships, the heart with love and compassion, the brow chakra with our intuition and vision, right? So each chakra has its own energy. So when we are feeling something in our body, being able to, in a way, decode it,
Hmm.
understand that. I go into more detail in that chapter in the gap.
Yeah.
I talk about the different parts of our body and what we tend to hold there. Not It's not foolproof, it's not 100%, but what we tend to,
Right.
such as shoulders, we tend to hold responsibility and we tend to hold expectations from other people.
Hmm.
Right? The body, it tends to be more um, father, male based, brothers, uncles, but also our action side. The left side tends to be more about important females in our life and our nurturing feminine side. So, I mean, just in basic terms,
Right.
I outline how to decode some of these things in the body. There are many resources out there, such as Louise Hay. Julia Cannon wrote a book about soul speak. Again, what we hold in our body. Also, Dr. Michael J. Lincoln wrote Messages from the Body, their psychological meaning. So, if we
Interesting.
can, oh, it's a fascinating book.
Yeah.
If we can decode our body and the energy system, we can start to, oh, wow, I guess I have been angry a very long time. Maybe I should address that.
Yeah. And and as you're saying this, and you mentioned we're Midwestern people. I'm also an engineer, so I understand the physical aspect of things. And we go to the doctor and they give us a pill to lower our blood pressure, for example, and those work to a certain extent. But what's really interesting to me is people who would say some of the stuff we're talking about is, woo woo. This just doesn't work. And even in traditional Western medicine, whenever they're bringing out a new drug, they always have to test against a placebo. And the reason they have to test against a placebo is because they know the placebo effect is very, very real. There's no denying it. Everybody admits that it's there, and nobody can explain it because you can give two people, a pill and tell them it's going to do this, and 30% of the people you give the sugar pill have the same effect as the person you gave the quote real pill.
That is absolutely right. And I think that whatever your belief system is, you're going to experience that. So, um, in other words, I think it was Henry Ford said, no matter if you believe you can or you believe you can't, you're right.
Yeah, yeah,
So I think that all healing is actually faith healing. If you have faith in surgery, in pharmaceuticals, in the therapies, in all of this, you're probably going to get some results. If you have faith that your body it knows how to heal itself if you get out of the way, and if you believe that that work has been done by the higher self, you're going to carry that with you and you're going to have those results as well.
yeah. Yeah, I can't say that's not true. Because it's funny because they've looked like how far can we take the placebo effect? They've even like told people they did knee surgery on them, and I guess they just cut them open but didn't actually do the actual procedure, and they got better. And they're like, we didn't expect this to happen. So as you said, some of these things people might go, well, that can't work. If you believe it can't work, then it probably won't.
Right. That's
Yeah,
exactly right. Yeah. Whether you believe you can or you can't, you're right.
yeah, yeah. I think that's a really excellent point. So when people, we've talked about this a little bit, but for people who have lost a loved one, they're in deep grief, and they're like, okay, how do I even get started on reaching out to my angels or my guides or my loved one? I'm just like stuck. Where do people start?
Absolutely stuck. Well, that's a good question. That's an excellent question. I do see a lot of people in grief for Reiki because
Mm-hmm.
carry that we tend to carry grief in our lungs and in the heart chakra. So I will, if I have somebody who's coming in because they're in deep grief, sometimes I will work with them with Reiki first. And I always let them know I don't want to take your grief because you're going to need that. You need that to work with, and it is yours. It's yours to learn from and heal from. But what I can do is make it more manageable for you.
Hmm.
And so just relieve the heavy portion of that so they've got room to breathe, they've got room to think, and they've got room to act. And they always say they feel lighter after they get off the table. So that's one thing. But I also feel like grief cannot be in a silo. If you're just sitting and marinating in your own grief, it's going to be hard. Get some help, reach out. Maybe you're ready to reach out to a medium, but if you're not, that's fine too.
Hmm.
Being with other grievers, podcasts such as yours, Grief to Grow, the soul, what is it called? Grief Share. This
Hmm.
saved my life after my dad died.
Hmm.
It was a community of grievers for grievers, and it
Hmm.
was so helpful. It was like a 6-week program, and every week we learned something about the process and learned ways to help and deal. And we shared our stories with each other. That is so important. We just want to be heard sometimes. We just want to express, and holding on, we good Midwestern people holding on to this and not wanting to burden others.
Yeah.
That keeps us stuck. This lady I spoke to ran into a church in the hall. She said, "Nobody wants to be around me. I don't have any friends left because I just can't get over this grief." She was
Mm.
stuck.
Yeah.
What she needed to do was talk about it in a safe, accepting, uplifting way.
Yeah. So, another thing we talked about in the introduction, we haven't touched upon yet since we've started this conversation, is our pets, our animals. It's really interesting that people will struggle to believe that our pets go on. So, what are your thoughts on that?
Oh, they go on. They do. I see a lot of pets in readings where they'll say, "Hey, I'm going to wait for you at the end of the Rainbow Bridge. Oh, I'm just going to start crying. You helped me over the Rainbow Bridge, and I'll never forget it. And I want to be there for you as well." So we do hear from our pets. Now, animals are a little different than human souls, and most animals come from what I call a soul soup, where
Hmm.
it's a big oversoul that contains, wild birds, soul, and blue whales, right? All of the animals have this energy body that's outside of themselves, that's kind of a collective.
Hmm.
But when animals first start to learn to be connected with humans or higher life forms, usually humans, then when they pass, they can choose to go back to that soul soup or to remain what I call differentiated in kind of an
Hmm.
individual. And then if they choose to remain individual, then they can continue their evolution and their soul's evolution. There's a lot of folks out there who say that animals and humans cannot come back as each other. They like, once you're a human, you're a human. Once you're an animal, and that's not been my experience at all. That
Hmm.
we can come back and forth. So in QHHT sessions, sometimes people will have lifetimes. I've seen as a bear, as birds, as dinosaurs, as sea creatures,
Hmm.
mollusks, all kinds of different,
Mollusks. Wow. Okay.
right?
Yeah.
Very interesting. Um, so I know that we can go back and forth, but it's all about the evolution. And so people love to hear from their animals from the other side. Gosh, it just gives us some closure sometimes. Of course, they want to know what their living pets are thinking and doing and how they like everybody and why they're pooping in the corner. And people want to know that type of thing too. But yeah, being able to speak with a loved one or a loved pet on the other side is very helpful.
Yeah. Well, a lot of times we have relationships with our animals that might be closer than relationships we have with humans. Um,
1000%.
yeah, and they obviously, to me, it's obvious. It was funny because my daughter, she's a mental health counselor, and she was in her psychology undergrad. They had debates in her class about whether animals are conscious. And I'm like, why is this a debate? Does anybody here ever owned a dog? You know,
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, they've got their little personalities.
yeah,
Um, they've got their behaviors and their opinions and their judgments.
yeah,
What's interesting is that people will, because we're so close with our animals, they will assign human emotions to animals, and animals just do not have emotions like we do, and they don't have thought processes like we do. They do not hold a grudge. They can be judgmental. They turn their nose up at certain foods and
yeah,
have their preferences between their animal companions and things like that. And but they just don't have the same type of things that we do.
yeah. Well, they don't. I would agree. They don't have like jealousy. They don't hold a grudge, or they don't have. But my dog is very jealous. Like if you're sitting on the couch and you're touching anybody or anything other than her, she will jump up and get between you. So uh, she definitely has that emotion anyway.
That I would attribute more to resource guarding.
Yeah, yeah,
That if somebody else is getting attention, that means I'm not getting attention. If someone else has food, that means I don't have food. So
yeah,
so I would probably give that dog some Reiki for the brachial chakra, which is where they hold connection to humans. I would probably give that dog some Reiki for the root chakra too. But
yeah, yeah. Well, again, it's interesting, and people want to know, am I going to see my pet again? Because people, we talked about grief earlier, and I don't think we honor the loss of a pet as much as we need to, because I've had a couple people come to me for grief counseling or coaching because they've lost a pet, and they're somewhat embarrassed. There's one guy I'll never forget. He made an appointment with me. He said he lost his best friend, and so we were talking, and as we were talking, then he mentioned the loss of his cat, and I said, "This poor guy, he's lost his best friend, and he's lost his cat." And it took me a while to realize his best friend was his cat. And he was, he's like, he was slightly embarrassed, but it's like losing my cat, like rocked my world.
we enter into these agreements with our animals. We're full of joy. We're going to be together forever. You're going to be my buddy till the end of time. All the while knowing consciously that we're going to outlive them.
Yeah, yeah,
But every time we do it every time. And yeah, they become our best friends. They become our children.
yeah, absolutely.
The bond
So,
we have with them is amazing.
yeah, well, our before my wife and I had children, we had a dog, and that dog was our child. She went with us everywhere. We bought her toys for Christmas. She was our child.
Oh, absolutely. I had, there's many people who've got like that one pet, that one dog, that one cat is that their dog of a lifetime or their cat of a lifetime. And mine was Milu. I lost her shortly before my daughter was born 18 years ago,
Mm,
almost 19 years ago. I still miss that kid. Like almost every day I think about her and I miss her. So
yeah,
we do. We carry that grief. And we shouldn't diminish it because it was just an animal. I knew I would outlive this animal. They have a short shelf life. Why am I still holding on to this? Grief is grief.
yeah, yeah, and that connection, that bond is very real. Let's talk about your book some more. Angel Encounters. So, what types of stories can people expect to find in the book?
All kinds, and I want to stress that it's not just angels with wings, although there have been stories about angels with wings
Hmm.
showing up for you, but it could be um like it could be a random encounter. So I'll tell just a couple of stories, just snippets of a couple of stories, because really you should read the whole story to get the full impact.
Sure.
But there was one called "The Angel in the Walmart Aisle," and this woman, she was running behind. She had to go to a meeting, and she had all these things that busy single mom. And she stops off at Walmart to grab something for a fundraiser. Runs into this woman in the floral aisle who says, "Can you help me with something?" And this lady's like, listen, honey, I'm on a tight schedule. I don't have time to sit and chit chat with you. But she's just, something said, just be patient. Just the meeting will wait. You'll be 5 minutes late. It's no big deal. And she says, yes, of course. What can I do? And this woman says, this is my first Thanksgiving without my husband.
Mm.
Really want to make the centerpiece something special. And I'm not sure what to put in the centerpiece. Can you help me? And so she did. And at the end of this interaction, she realized I am not supposed to be anywhere else right now. I need to be right here. And this widow said, you know what? You are my angel today.
Mm.
So it can be something as simple as that, that we are in the right place at the right time in answer to someone's call and showing up and being that angel for them. But it can also be, this story is not in the book, but it's probably going to be in the next one, of this woman who had lost her son in, I think it was an overdose. And she was in her kitchen making tuna fish. When we have these events, certain details are just so prominent in our mind, and certain details we lose, right?
Mm-hmm.
Detail was she was making tuna fish salad. And so these three angels literally appeared in her kitchen, and she said they were so tall they like touched the ceiling, and their wings were immense and huge, and there were three of them, and they completely like inhabited my kitchen. And they told her that everything was going to be okay and that she would have strength when she needed it. Well, she was dealing with the loss of her son, and then just not too long after this angel visit, she lost her husband. And these angels had shown up to comfort her and get her past the first loss, and then understand and have tools with the second loss.
Mm-hmm.
So it's something like that. But there have been stories of aliens, benevolent aliens. There's a pretty lengthy story in the book about that. There's also stories in the news, in real life angel encounters. Real people share real stories of miraculous events, such as the Joplin tornado. Joplin, Missouri had an E5 tornado in 2011. And after all of the destruction, children started talking about angelic beings.
Wow.
You'll have to do the story.
Wow.
And these are well documented.
Yeah.
The angel stories are a gamut, and they're everything in between. Now, there's also the podcast, Real Life Angel Encounters. And this podcast comes out on Tuesdays, every other Tuesday. And this is real people sharing their stories. So I've had many grieving parents on the podcast to talk about how their connection continues with their children. And there was one story that's not in the book, it's in the podcast, a recent story from this year. This woman in her, she's late 60s, maybe early 70s, had lost an infant daughter at 7 weeks and still grieves. Even now, she started cheering up when I was interviewing her. But this child on the other side now presents as a grown woman, because we get to choose what age we represent ourselves when we are on the other side. And so this child, this baby, grew, well, as an adult on the other side, had really performed some miracles and shown up in very real ways for family members, for healing and for protection. And they all reported they just knew that it was this baby. So the stories can be, it's not just angels with wings, and it's not just this or not just that. So these angel stories are anything that is miraculous, that is positive. I like to say it's for people who want their paranormal with positivity, and who want actual spirits in their spirituality.
Yeah. Well, as you were saying that, I was thinking about, the word angel, I heard somewhere means messenger from God, is like the literal translation. So, and it can be these special beings, or it could also be us as humans, if we're in the right place at the right time. And you were talking about the woman in the Walmart. It reminded me of, one day I was sitting here. I walk every morning and take a long walk. So I was getting ready to go for my walk, and I listened to a lot of podcasts. So I was listening to a podcast, and there was a woman on the podcast, and she said, one of the signs I get from my daughter is when I'm out somewhere, someone will walk up to me and say, I knew your daughter when she was alive. And I thought to myself, that's not a sign, because I'm a skeptic still. I'm like, That's just someone walking up to you and saying that you knew. That's not a sign. But I would never say that to that woman. I would never say it to anybody. But for me, I'm like, that's not good enough, Shane. You have to do better than that. So I was on my walk that morning, and I walked the exact same route. I've been walking this route for years, every single day, same route. And as I'm walking past this one house, I see a woman coming down the driveway, and it's a really long driveway. And then I realize she's coming to talk to me. And so I take out my AirPods, and she looks at me and she goes, I wanted to stop you and tell you that my daughter was in Girl Scouts with your daughter, and her name's Morgan, I think it was. And I just wanted to tell you that, my daughter knew Shayna when she was in Girl Scouts. And I was like, why did you decide to tell me this on this one day? And I happened to be walking by at the right time. I listened to that podcast. I'm like, for that day, that woman was an angel. She delivered a sign, and it was wild to me. I cannot explain it.
Isn't that wild? You know, and okay, this woman in the driveway, she might not have been an angel, but an angel may have set her there in the place where she could see you coming,
Yeah.
know routine, and say, you know what, today's the day. Go talk to that guy.
Oh,
He needs.
yeah. I'm not saying she was like an angelic being. I know her. I've seen her many times, like in front of her house. We'd never talked before. And I don't think she knew that I knew. I mean, I didn't know who she was. I'd seen her around. Now I know who she is. And so I talked to my wife, and she goes, "Oh yeah, I know her because the girls were in Girl Scouts together." But it's that, like I said, that thing, we can all be messengers. And so what I try to encourage people is when you're out in public, see how you can, how you can serve. Take some time for someone that needs it because you could be their angel for that day.
Never know.
Yeah.
Okay, well, on the next episode that's coming out of Real Life Angel Encounters, which will be out before this interview drops, but in that episode, my guest was planning to commit suicide
Mm,
and wanted one last beverage, Dr. Pepper, before he did it.
mm,
And in the parking lot of the Walmart, again, Walmart, where he bought this Dr. Pepper, there was an unhoused guy and his wife who were living in their SUV who said, "Hey, man, how's it going?" as he walked by. And he stopped and chatted with them, and they didn't want anything. He was thinking, oh, this guy's going to panhandle me. I'm going to give him all my money because I won't need it anyway where I'm going.
mm.
But talking to this guy who had nothing, he says, yeah, me and my lady are living in this van, but we've got each other, we've got love. I couldn't be happier. This is wonderful. Life is great. Life is awesome. And he was so full of hope that my friend, well, this is actually a friend who told this story, but my friend said, if this guy can be happy,
Mhm.
nothing, I can be happy as well. And so that just, like you said, he was the angel that showed up
Yeah.
for the storyteller.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
that.
as you were telling me, I got goosebumps. Yeah, I think again that it's really cool that we have these other beings and stuff, and the 10 foot tall things and stuff. But we're here also to serve each other, and I love what you talked about the QHHT. Also, reach out to your higher self. That's one of the things I try to do through meditation is like to tap into that greater wisdom. Because someone told me this was Frances Key, and she put it in her book called The Team. But I love this image she gave. She's like, it's like if you're sitting on a riverbank and you put your toe in the water, the part of you that's incarnated is like the toe in the water. She goes, but you are this much, much larger being that's still back home, as I call it. And we can tap into that. And all the stuff we're talking about is like, it all comes back to understanding who you are. I think you and I both are like understanding who you are, understanding why you're here, understand this is a temporary experience, no matter how bad it feels, no matter how real it feels, and we always have help.
Yeah, we always have. That's just it. This is what I do for a living, and I
Right.
forget that I've. It's like, oh, yeah, I can reach out to my team about that.
Yeah.
We, it's easy to forget.
It is. We're so immersed. I tell people it's like again back to the VR thing. I'm like, this is a really cool VR. And I look around sometimes I tend to have lucid dreams, and every once in a while I'll be having a lucid dream, and I'll just be astounded by how real it feels. I'm like, I can really feel the sun on my skin. I'm like, so I try to remember that when I'm sitting here talking to you right now. I'm like, this feels like this is it. This is the only reality, but it's not. There's something beyond that. That the diver that's the guy that's in the boat. We're down in the diving bell.
Right. Absolutely. What we know and experience is not even the tip of the iceberg. I mean, it's like the cold air above the iceberg because everything that we think that we know is not even not even real. If you look at an atom, there's such little matter within an atom. You're an engineer, so you
Hmm.
science behind all of this. And everything there's just space.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
the actual physical components of our bodies, maybe a teaspoon of matter. The rest of us is just energy and space. And yet we think that all of this is real. I think it was Einstein said, reality is an illusion, albeit a persistent one.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. So that's the thing. Again, that's the thing that you are doing with your work, and I love it. Is helping people to wake up to this greater reality, even while we're here. I think that's the challenge. Again, we talk about like why do people come to Earth, and I talk to a lot of near death experiencers, and they say this is like the hottest ticket in the universe. Everybody wants to get it. This is like Disney World, if you want to, that it's like because we have the best rides. We've got the highest experiences, which also you can have the lowest experiences, and we come to experience all of that. And we do come for and people say, well, why would I plan this illness? Why would I plan losing my job? Why would I plan? And especially when you're in the midst of it, right? You don't want to tell someone that just lost someone, well, you planned this. But if we can plant those seeds now, then maybe people can remember that quicker when it happens to them.
There's a book that I think outlines this very well, exactly what you're saying. And it's called The Little Soul in the Sun.
Oh
By,
yeah, I love that book.
isn't that a great book?
Yes, yeah.
It tells in kind of a children's parable about how we make these agreements,
Hmm.
that we agree with our soul family. It's like, all right, this is what I want to learn. You're going to help me? Yeah, I'll help you. What do I do? What do we do?
Yeah,
Right? And then something bad. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to forget we ever had this conversation because Dolores Cannon said, what good is the test if you already know the answers?
right.
So we're going to forget we ever had this conversation, but you're going to have to do something really bad to me so that I can learn forgiveness, and then we'll be free of this. So, of course, in the story, which I think listeners should go out and read that book, or there's a YouTube video of someone telling this story. It's just a beautiful story, beautifully told about how we make these agreements, painful as it is. Oh my God, Brian, I've gotten in trouble with many people for saying, well, this was a soul agreement.
Yeah.
And why would I choose this? Well, you had to forget about it so that you could get the lesson.
Yeah, and for people that say that, I've interviewed some people that have gone through hell on earth, and they have not only forgiven the perpetrator, they have said they've realized that this was a soul agreement. And so people will say, "Well, no, no one would ever choose this," and you're making you're victim blaming or stuff like that, and we're not victim blaming at all. But I've known people that have been sexually abused, domestic violence, murdered, and come back and said, I forgive this person because I understand this bigger picture now. And this is not bypassing. This is not to say that everything that people are doing is okay. But if when we carry around that anger that just burns and seethes inside it, we're just hurting ourselves, and it's just a way of letting that go.
It really is. And forgiveness is not saying, "Oh, don't worry about what you did. It's all hunky dory. I'm fine." That's
Hmm.
not forgiveness. Forgiveness is removing the energy of it so that when you think of the event, because the event is the event,
Right.
when you think of it, you're reminded of it. It doesn't cause you the pain that it did,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? It doesn't mean that you have this person over for dinner every Sunday. and that you hang out regularly. Not at all. You could never speak to this person again, but you've just taken the emotional charge out of it.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, we're coming to the end of our time, Christy. It's really been great to get to know you. Remind people again of the names of both your books and both your podcasts and where people can reach you.
Yes, absolutely. You can reach me at radiatewellnesscommunity.com, and both books are there in the shop tab. So there's real life angel encounters, real
Mhm.
people tell real stories of miraculous events, and that will be in bookstores everywhere July 1st, and it is available for pre-order before that. And then there's also the gap, simple steps to reclaim your health, as I believe the subtitle. I should know this, but that is also at radiatewellnesscommunity.com on the shop tab. Also at radiatewellnesscommunity.com, you can go to the podcast tab
Yeah.
and hear back episodes of the Radiate Wellness podcast. In that podcast, I interview all types of luminaries, authors, and practitioners from around the world about a variety of topics that are about things that we would want to radiate into the world. But then also real life angel encounters is also at radiatewellnesscommunity.com. And real life angel encounters is a podcast where people are invited to share their stories. And there's also a link on that page to submit a story for possible inclusion in a future episode. And then the book
Awesome.
can be found at Amazon and Barnes and Noble and all of the places.
Yeah, and you've had some great guests on your Radiate Wellness our podcast, so it sounds like it's one to check out.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. Thank you for letting me share that.
Yeah, well, it's great to see you. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. You too, Brian. It's been a pleasure.